Hello, welcome. Can everybody that's still standing, I have some beautiful seats here in the front row. Please come and sit, otherwise these lovely speakers have like only empty seats to look at. So I see some people there standing in the back. Alexander, you can come and sit here. No? Okay. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome at a really nice meetup from the HTKF. You are here at GTEC, which I work for. My name is Luz and I'm the event manager for GTEC. I will just tell you a little bit about where you are and what we do, and then HTKF can tell you all about the Internet of Things. We are the German Tech Entrepreneurship Center, and we are an open ecosystem that connects startups and corporates and academia. And we had so far over 60 different startups from all over the world, different countries that came to us. Right now we have in our lab 14 startups, and we mentor them, we give them for a year long all types of teachings and guidance to build themselves bigger, and we connect for the corporates and the academia. We show them all these nice startups and all the talents that we have here. We do this through numerous events, and one of these is the meetups, like we have tonight, which the HTGF. And for this, we have Tanya, and she will tell you all about it. So,
thank you, Liz. It won't be me that's telling it. So we have a wonderful panel with us. So some of our LPs are with us. And yeah, so just a little bit about me. I'm Tanya from HTGF. I'm managing the office here in Berlin. We're a seed investor, have 500 investments, 100 exits, and we invest in life sciences, hardware, and software. So we do everything that can get connected. So I thought that's a good topic for us. I have my colleagues with me today, so if you're thinking about starting an IoT startup, I don't want to talk to us latest everybody in red, basically, in this light red, you can talk to later on. So why I picked this topic is like in the beginning of 2018, I read the Deloitte report and said like 2018 will be the year of IoT growth. 6 trillion will be invested in until 2021. And unfortunately, a very small fraction will be invested in startups in that space. So that's really sad to see. So we need to change that and see a bit more where are the chances for startups to go into the business and understand a bit how it works together with bigger platforms, with corporates, and what's behind it and where you should see the chance in that space. So we want to talk to you a bit all through from the device space to the platform space, from the very crowded smart home to the industrial space, and see how the connections to the corporates. So a very warm welcome to the panel. We have also Ingo coming from the south of Germany to Berlin. So he just flew in for you today. So give him a warm applause that he is here. So you know who we have. I suggest we make quick rounds. Everybody says a little bit about the background and how you're connected to IoT.
Sure. Hello, welcome everyone again. So I'm Soner from Beat. So what we do is Beat, like we create digital twins of commercial buildings by using IoT technology and real-time data. So basically what we do is like we are analyzing how people are using commercial buildings and then connected with the buildings automation system.
Hi, I'm Thorsten. I work at Pfizer here in Berlin. What I do is basically I'm in the business technology department. I'm mostly responsible for the mobile communication systems at Pfizer, but apart that, I have our internal hub to engage with startups, and mostly I am also responsible to bring startups on board or other corporates on board with their third-party solutions.
Hello everybody, my name is Larissa. I'm the co-founder of Visio. So it's a startup company. It all started as a small personal project to measure the sun exposure and get warm when it's getting too much. Because I was very worried about this problem as I had skin cancer before. It's not working. Here we go. A little bit micro, Larissa? Hello? Yeah. Yeah, it's getting close to. Okay. So, and after this, we developed this into the product. It's a small device that you can put inside the clip or on the wristband. It connects to the app and gives you personalized advice about sun protection. And now we are moving more into skin analysis area. So that's all about that so far.
Hi, my name is Niklas. I was lucky enough to be able to conceptualize and build the SAP IoT Startup Accelerator. And that's also the reason why I took this wonderful pullover today. It's a gift from my team. I got to today morning for my birthday yesterday. And our basic job is to connect startups to SAP backend systems in a very deep technological way and with a focus on the digital supply chain.
Sorry guys, we in So, one welcome from my side. My name is Ingo, and I'm working right now for Bosch Corporate IT. I'm with Bosch since 20 years in different positions, different areas. And let's say IoT is kind of being a business where I'm connected to since 2005 in different areas. So, running the security systems, communication systems, all IT based. Then smart home was the next endeavor. We started probably now 6 years ago roughly, and then HVAC systems getting connected and so on and so forth. And now I'm looking more from the IT platform side into it, and I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you. No, sir, we'll start right with you. So, as you have many experiences, so especially smart home, this is the space that's more crowded, and you see a lot of startups get in. In the context of Bosch, is that helpful to be in the context of a big brand, or is it easier to go set up a platform for devices, or do you think, or is there still a chance if they are big players in that space?
If you're a part of a big enterprise, it's a chance, but it's even, let's say, kind of a challenge as well. Because obviously you're not jumping into such a business. You have a brand which you want to protect. And when I remember correctly, we started latest in 2012 with this Bosch activity to build up Bosch Home for do-it-yourself people. And we found, okay, within 2 years, it's all in the market, and then it's just ramping up. And it was not that way, to be honest. So we had really difficulties, and obviously there were kind of internally, there was a little bit of anxiousness, because at the end, you don't want to screw up the brand. So we looked into security topics, we looked into the market, and we kind of had the idea having the brand and then kind of having an awesome product would help us to just, let's say, drive the market. But it went way slower, not just the development, because as I said, we went through many cycles, and then we updated it again, and then the product offering in the meantime of all the competitors grew, of course. And then you have to say, okay, do we still have a good spot here to get started? Therefore, as I said, it took way longer than we expected. We put probably at least 1 year on top before we even launched the first product. Initially, we said easily launch and learn, but then we said launch and learn for Bosch. The product has to be at least good quality-wise, top-notch. It has to come with some innovation and so on. So this launch and learn turned out into let's say, extending the scope and let's say, putting or developing more quality in, if you want. On the other hand, the market developed quite heavily like that, right? So I think sometimes for a startup it's much easier because you have no history, so you just get in. Of course, if you sell something with a brand, you have the advantage that people, based on other products you offer, believe somewhat in the sustainability of your product. And I think that's absolutely true. We are not pushing a product into market and 2 years later it's gone again. So if we do something like that, there's a promise in it that we maintain it, that we work it, potentially not forever. Of course, if we screw up at all, then at a certain point we have to pull the plug. But compared to, let's say, startups where you have a higher risk in, let's say, that the product will not be available even anymore, there is a certain guarantee which a big enterprise like Bosch has to give. So it is totally understood in the meantime what we have to invest for lifecycle management. It was definitely not understood at the beginning. So when we started to connect products, we said, okay, we just do a product, push it out, and then we develop. But we have lifecycle costs which are quite significant.
So was that a shift from like building the product hardware to the software company? Or was that? I imagine that was the part of
there is a statement of our CEO that we are, let's say, shifting in that direction. We have to be careful with this kind of statements, of course. We have 400,000 employees, and to be honest, not even the half is doing software. Therefore, you have to be careful with the statement like we are now a software company. We want to build upon our, let's say, experience, and software definitely plays and continues to play a much more important role in our area. But we have been used in the majority of our company areas to develop embedded solutions. So we develop products for automotive, we develop products for say, white goods, for power tools, and so on and so forth. And it was mostly embedded. And now the IT side kicks in. And IT development is a little bit different than developing, let's say, long-lasting embedded products. And we had to learn how to deal with that. And that took not just time in terms of technology or technical content and competence, but it took even time in terms of other approaches. So we are in this digital transformation right now. Everybody's talking about agile. You can imagine if you want to transform a big tank into an agile company, that's not done even in 5 years. So we are doing it step by step now. But it was a hype, or it's still a hype, to be honest.
All right, so Selma, you start with a hardware product as a startup in the larger business world. So how is your approach to get really access to the market if you don't have the big pressure?
Yeah, exactly. So, like in our case, we are developing both like the hardware and the software for it. So basically, like in our case, it was a little bit, I don't like maybe a curse, but also like a luck. We were always like somehow connected with the C levels of the corporates. So because right now we have a lot of bigger corporates that they are using B. So I think in our case, like it was more maybe the timing was good because like especially like what we do is like we are producing data from their buildings, so that can mean a lot. So in that case, like I think that was the missing. So everyone was talking about connected devices, but no one was talking about connecting people to the devices. So I think that was one of our adventures that we told it before because we like the basic things like we did is connecting the people with the buildings and like accordingly with the buildings technologies. So in our case, it was a little bit like luck and a little bit like, as I said, like dealing with bigger corporates like is always difficult. But also, if you are somehow connected with the upper level management side, I think that is becoming more easy, at least to start a pilot. So what we did is basically to do a small pilot and to show the system. I think that's very important, especially if you are a startup. Like what we see that especially like the hardware and tech startups, they are waiting too long to make it a very good technology or to make it a perfect technology, but then they are losing and like missing the market as well. So what we basically do is like even if we didn't have the perfect product, we just launch it and then on the way we perfect it and then according and getting the feedback actually like that helps us to get into those like customers or but also like the users that we have.
So what you said is like you have a trend like not only connecting the devices but connecting it to people. So where do you think like the market is going for you then? So it is beyond movement tracking or
I think like in our case we are like only doing this like our technology is only using B2B like commercial buildings like offices, retail shows and retail shops and fitness banks and so on. So I think the trend and I think the outcome that we did get from all these devices that we have on the market is like I think the trend is going more to what we say that like developing the buildings into a living ecosystems than a concrete structure. So I think that's the future that this goes like because I think it's more like we spent like 90% of our lives inside buildings. So but we don't know anything that is happening in the building technologies part. So they are just a level upper and they are working like in fixed schedules and so on and but really we are not connected. I think the future will be is going to be, especially in the commercial buildings, like adapting to the day cycle of the building, like the occupancy change, the comfort level change directly with the building system, not only like giving reports or giving feedbacks to the engineers or facility managers, but directly somehow converting the building into a we always say that converting the building from smart building into intelligent building. So I think that will be make the difference, like being smart, being intelligent, and more smart.
Alright, so Ignace, like you're more in the industrial side, so that sounds a bit familiar. So it's like a supply chain, the production chain that you have. So where do you see like the interaction with the connected devices to the human beings in that? So
within digital supply chain and especially production, there are actually some nice and interesting spots of an interaction between a human and a machine. So let's imagine a shop floor worker who is assembling something on a factory shop floor. So right now, or let's say last year, till now, most of the shop floor workers had something like paper instructions that they needed to work through and check a list and so on and so forth. We are now coming to the stage where we start to have screens on the factory shop floor and touchpads, which is better, but still not really good because you have something on your hands, you need to assemble something, you have oily fingers, then you need to touch around. And how much better is it when you start to, for example, start using gestures like tick or cross, or when you simply look at a screen at a certain position and then you get a tick. So more and more startup technologies are coming to these fields using eye tracking or gesture recognition for the shop floor worker. This is one area to enable and help the interaction between technology and human. And another part could also be in the quality control area where you measure the movement of the shop floor worker, for example, not to track how good or bad he is, but rather to see when he's about to make a mistake, like forgetting a certain screw, and as soon as he forgets it, just give him a warning, which sounds like 1982 is actually something that helps to avoid stress, because it's much more stressful when you produce 10,000 euros of damage because you did something wrong by assembling something, and then you need to go to the supervisor and tell him that you did something wrong. Then just get a small warning, make it right, and then send it the right direction. And the direction how I told it, gesture control is kinemic, eye tracking is 42, and archive is 3D sensor stuff. And it makes absolute sense for us that we need to work with them and connect them to our systems, because both the backend system that steers the shop floor in combination with gesture control or eye tracking or this 3D sensors, both together make a solution for a customer, not one or the other. It's both together.
So, in addition to the technologies you just mentioned, what you see right now, at least at Bosch, I can kind of observe and follow that is obviously the whole automation industry 4.0 connected industry topic. That topics like AI really get into this place. To a large extent, obviously, to optimize, to automate things. So you start learning things, you start optimizing your measurements, your validation tasks, and so on. But then in combination with other quality control topics where you have recognition, so optical inspection, and even what is coming kind of into the places there is well augmented reality. So you are kind of guided. In particular, if you are, let's say, new to the job, you need more guidance, and it adapts to your needs. So I've seen it the very first time with handicapped people, because it's much easier in terms of all the privacy topics, because then people start, in our case in Germany at least, start to argue about that people are tracked, and you can start to talk about their performance, and then you talk to the work councils and so on and so forth. So technology is good, but to get the technology then in place is a different story. Now, I've seen that at University of Stuttgart, for instance, they started with handicapped people, so they brought these people into the working space. And that was obviously much more accepted in society. So what is for me important with particular AI is this dilemma which we are in between what is technically feasible and what can we society-wise adapt, what is accepted by society and legal and so on. That's another topic. It's not just technical one.
So, Thorsten, you have a background in assisted living, so that's right the topic where probably people can profit most if they are connected to devices and connected to the downstream space. So, where did you see fields where it's very helpful?
Yeah, I mean, before I did my bachelor and master degree, I used to work as a nurse, and I used to work in intensive care, and I was responsible for up to 25 nurses, and I just figured out how difficult it is for some of them to really get used to the fact that you're kind of in inter-situation between technology and you have to take care for the patient itself. So what I learned, so I did a master in human technology interaction and demographic change, how you can figure out how you can bring people into their own lives to make them more independent. And mostly what we like to figure out from a research perspective is to see how you can help them to live in their own lives. You don't want to go into a sheltered home or any other like intensive situation. So what mostly is, I mean, this living or these technologies are looking at is security. Either it's the objective security or the subjective security, and in the sense of how you feel secure is very important if you really want to engage with the technologies or not. So also being able to move around on your own, either it's in your home or outside, is basically what these technologies are focusing on in the healthcare sector.
Alright, so Larissa, your product is exactly for prevention. So are you more focused on the consumer side actually for prevention, or is this really more your business about data you can provide from people?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question because it all started with the idea of prevention, of course, as an additional tool to make it the damage that the sun can cause be more visual, because we receive a lot of information on TV that in summer that we should use sunscreens and everything like this, but not so many people actually follow this because in our case it's more visual, and we had a little study where we just showed the app to people on the beach, and they were just, yes, we know that, but it's like, okay, now I know that it's really bad what I'm doing, so I need to actually protect myself better. So it was more visual for them, which was very good. And talking about data that we gather, first of all, where we are interested in is that this data can be used not for example, for telling, hey, this person is here on the beach, let's just sell him this product, but more in the direction of the research. And this research can also help in the prevention area. So then it will be more data points, and we will have more information that in this region, this is what is happening, and we can link this data to the incidence of skin cancers happening in this region. And I believe that this data can be really helpful for research, first of all. Yes, and of course, the companies that we are talking about collaboration with the companies, with this one company with whom we collaborate. Of course, the interest is very much into the data field, and to make this first of all to make this customer experience in selecting the right sun care and skincare product more personal. And so another thing is to be able to identify what people are searching for and how much time they spend, in this case in the sun, or what will be their interest, because we also include the barcode scanner, for example, in our app that helps to identify, okay, this is the skincare or sun care product that has been used, and this is also quite valuable information on the commercial side. But our big goal is, of course, to have more data for research.
So Tosin, you're at a pharmaceutical company. Is that really a space you were looking for to get more valuable data, or are you looking for startups who can provide that to a pharmaceutical company?
I think data is something very important for when you speak of pharmaceutical companies and startup collaborations. So we have our own hub that is a space where startups can collaborate with my colleagues and together to figure out whether the idea is useful for the company or not. So I mean, for a pharmaceutical company, it's important to see if the startup idea is working in the direction that you're doing research in. I mean, for example, we do a lot of research in specific cancer fields, but the IoT has to fit to that. So, for example, for heart diseases, we work very closely with the startup together, and this is one of the success stories of the German hub. And this will go into a launch phase very soon. And I mean, this took quite a long time, but if you speak about health, you have to make sure that you have the right data, that you see that it works and it doesn't damage anyone, but it helps at first. So therefore, data is of course very important. And even, I mean, speaking about other IoT systems or other digital tools, if you want to go into the security system that is going to be paid by private or governmental insurances, then you have to, of course, bring the data, and you have to do this on your own. I mean, this is what I heard from a lot of stakeholders in the healthcare system. You have to make sure that it works, and you have to take care that you can prove this patient relevant.
All right, so talking about security, one side is, of course, on the personal level, you're dealing with people in the medical space, but also in the industry space and with MRU. So if you're thinking about connecting more and more devices, you have got more and more connections that open up also the security question with it. So how is the deal with the bigger production space? So, for instance, if you have like connecting devices from China, you never know what's supply chain in and what you're connecting to the supply chain you're having, for instance.
First of all, most data usually is already used and consumed in a factory or factory shop floor. That's why the most systems on the factory are actually not in the cloud, or many. You're probably yes and no. So the thing is, if you are connected to the cloud, you get a risk that probably the latency is not there in order to do the production. And yes, it's about to change, but even in this environment, it does not make sense to send all the data to the cloud, work through it, and then send it back. Rather, many things happen at the edge. So, and the biggest part is already worked with the edge, and just parts are coming to the cloud. And I believe there are enough chances to have a good security architecture protecting the biggest parts at this edge devices and then sending just small bits and pieces to the cloud. And I'm not really sure how important the production factory data that we have probably somewhere in China is in the current state right here in Germany. The biggest parts are still happening, and work is used somewhere at the edge where the production is done.
So what I believe is there are dramatic changes ahead of us. So what I said, for instance, with AI, what you do nowadays, not spread it all over the place, of course. What you do nowadays is that you obviously gather the data, and you train your models in the cloud and put your model then on the edge again. Because the execution of the model is real time, of course, on near real time. So therefore, doing that in the cloud doesn't work for, let's say, for the manufacturing process. But gathering the data, even from different sites. So for instance, in Bosch, we have so-called lead factories, and then we multiply that. And obviously, you want to compare this. You have the need to gather data quickly and have the models. Therefore, we will get out. So the question is, what's the cloud now? Is it a cloud which is within our corporate network, or is it a cloud which we share with Amazon, or so there are different architectures still in that case. So security becomes a real challenge in that case. We try to, let's say, look into different areas. Of course, you want to reduce your attack space. Not everything needs to be open to exchange, let's say, a level of data. And certain data which you can, let's say, process in the cloud can be even anonymized. So it has some other advantages. In your case, maybe GDPR kicks in. So you don't want to have that discussion all the time. So you have to do something beforehand. But it is really something where we are looking into it, and if you see that technology is evolving, and let's say the possibilities or the tools people get at hand right now to detect things are increasing as well. So it's maybe with a little bit delay, of course, but still, I think if I look into our corporate IT, how many attacks we get every month, or it doesn't matter what let's say, what time you would really consider there. It's quite intense, to be honest. So we will continuously work and balance the risk there. And again, the attack space is obviously something you want to reduce it. So what you see right now, for instance, in the industrial space, you have in many cases still kind of multi-purpose devices, so a computer or something like that, has a drawback that they are well known, so the attack space is rather large than a dedicated device which is optimized to the execution. So I believe that's a threat for us. So and I believe for all other companies as well. That's why it goes to a certain extent slowly to roll that out. We let's say we explore that, of course. We would like to have the technology in place, but to scale it up, it's going slow, to be honest. It's really going slow.
So now, what's about security in buildings?
Yeah. So I agree on that one because you don't need to send every data every minute. So in our case, it's the same. We are not sending everything to the cloud and then analyzing it and then sending it back. But we are more looking for patterns and trends. So I think that makes it a little bit more secure. But at the end of the day, yes, it is the bigger or the size of those devices get, of course, it's becoming difficult to manage it, but also to manage it on a secure wise. But I think one point is very important, like you said, I think it's very important to make it visual. So in our case, it's huge important to convince the people security is always there, that will be always the issue, and I think that will never end. But if you I think what I would like to say is as soon as we make that visual, to show the people that they are really doing something wrong and that affects really a lot of things, then it makes a difference. So, but on a security-wise, I think it will be the future trend will be always the securing IoT devices. But as long as they are as I said, the analytics part is as long as not, and I'm trying to analyze the full lot of data, but more the data that means something. I think that will be more on the secure side if we do something. But in our case, we are being compliant.
Yeah, I mean, what I started in January at Pfizer, so I was confronted the first time with a huge huge corporate organization, and with the levels of security that you have to pass when you want to bring something into the company. So what I basically learned all over the year is there is a due diligence process you have to follow, and it's really tough for everyone. So I was confronted with a lot of smaller or bigger companies that we wanted to bring into with their solutions. For example, to enable our colleagues to use a platform for their sports activities for our company healthcare management. So what I see also is that you have to work very closely with all the departments together, but also you have to make it visible for everyone, for the company, for each colleague, what it means if you use a specific device and or service. And this is also, I mean, whether you speak about something you want to use within the company or with your clients outside, you have to be very visible and very transparent when it comes to the usage of data. And this is, I think, the key.
Right, so that leads back to the aspect of complexity. So if you have a lot of devices connected, how do you manage the maintenance of all that? Because you need all the data in there to make sure that everything works.
Just give you an idea, when I worked at Thermo Technology, it's an area where we do obviously HVAC systems. We started pretty early, I think in 2011, to start connecting it. And at that time, the forecast was that we will only have, I don't know, 200 meetings connected, that's it. In the meantime, we're talking about a couple of 100,000 which are connected. And if you start designing a solution for 200, it's pretty different from a solution which should support 500,000 and more. So I think we have to reinvent ourselves a few times to really get to that point. And then you have this operational task. So if in, I don't know, if in the Netherlands all of a sudden the server is not responding anymore, and then it gets cold in the winter, this is quite immediate that you get the first call from your support center. So setting up, let's say, a whole organization which is 24/7 and not just 5/8. So if you're not used to that, because the whole, let's say, the whole business, the whole market is kind of working a bit different. So it's very conservative, I would think. So the heating market, you can imagine, is very conservative, in particular in Germany. So it's in the basement. You don't want to do it anything. It should last for 25 years, and you don't care. And then you have maybe your installer attend, which you call if once in a time it does work. But now this damn device shows that I'm not connected anymore. And then in minutes you get the call. So organizational-wise, it was a huge challenge to set that up. And then technology-wise, let's say at least we have not started as early as Amazon or Google. So we had to catch up to manage these let's say scale. And you should have an idea where you and how you scale, because it was a tremendous effort, and it is still effort because it scales up, of course. And therefore, if you think about a solution and you are not, let's say, you're not lucky that you can just piggyback on existing ones which are scaling. We know the internet in principle scales. We know that. That's a good part. But if you have special technologies, if you have special needs, performances or whatever, think about your target in mind and validate that as you go, because the effort to maintain that can be really significant. It has nothing to do with your initial business idea anymore. So lifecycle management in this part takes a majority effort, and then at the end, if you want to make business with IoT, we underestimated that as well. We said, okay, lifecycle management per device per year is X euro, and it was initially much more. But if you then deduct that from your margin, it's not fun anymore. So it's a learning experience which we had to go through. Of course, it was not a big bang. It was not from 200 to whatever in one step. But it's a learning experience, and corporates are getting aware of that. And, if you have an idea where you think it should scale, be aware or be careful that it will scale. It's really, because that is really expensive. Lifecycle management gets really expensive.
And I believe this is where machine learning blockchain will kick in the next years, when the different devices start to speak to each other and also to people who should repair them. Then things are getting intelligent, not smart anymore. For example, so first, how is it right now? Right now, we see somewhere on the dashboard something is broken, and then we send someone to repair it. In future, probably it does not even need to be shown, but rather someone automatically is told when something is broken, or even better, you have a pretty good prediction that something is about to break in 90 days because of this and that pattern, and then you schedule your inspection in the right manner so that it's actually optimized with the way of the person who repairs things. So this is something that comes more and more. We are not there yet, yes, but I believe this will help, and probably makes already sense when you're building something full scale, a couple of thousand or a couple of millions of devices, to think also of mechanisms of how to automate it directly or make it.
Do you think it will be decentralized over the time? Now you have like platforms that are more like centralized. You try to manage that all through one platform or connected to one. So do you think the platforms will decentralize and then facilitated with blockchain even?
Blockchain is another hype right now, of course. To be honest, this leads to a lot of, let's say, mistakes along that. let's say, evaluation, I would say, because blockchain works if you consider network effects. Blockchain doesn't work as simply a security approach or something. So you want to track something in a secure way. You'll do that, it's too expensive. So if you have network effects, then you might be able to develop real business model with blockchain. So what we have seen in our company that just because it's a hype, everybody wants to do blockchain. And in many for many use cases, we investigate, say, don't go for it. There's really no value for it. You pay more than you can. So therefore, platform, yes, for those areas you will you want to get rid of the middle and so on. So there are definitely applications where this decentralized approach makes sense and where blockchain, and hopefully that will develop further. Right now, if you look at the energy bill for Bitcoin, so that's probably not the solution yet. But there are promising technologies evolving that blockchain becomes more and more in the, let's say, M2M space. And obviously, you do not have to put everything on the blockchain. So yes, I believe there is definitely a need for these type of decentralized technologies. But another, let's say, centralized way to be governed more or less decentralized would be that you have this open platforms. So what you see, obviously, you have this, let's say, platform leaders. Take an Amazon, take a Google or whatever, or for instance Apple. That's really hard to get into that space. But what you see more and more is kind of coalitions. So people in a certain area come together in a kind of open space and put their efforts together. So these open platforms, and that's not decentralized in that sense. Technology is still a platform, but the way it's managed and it's governed, that's then more or in a coalition or whatever. So I believe there's room definitely for that, and you see successful examples. So it's not blockchain, but it's not, let's say, a centralized one governed, or let's say in charge of one big company. So the Android model or whatever, if it's open, it's not really open.
All right, so I'd like to open to the public questions for the audience.
Hello. Thank you very much for the presentations. It's very interesting to listen. My name is Irina. I represent a company called Pandora Blockchain, and we are building a decentralized artificial intelligence. And my question would be as a follow-up to your statement regarding blockchain and the usage of blockchain for IoT. So the main reason why I would say that blockchain is a good solution for IoT is that it removes a different sort of security problem. Is that I'm going to explain with the example. Any IoT, anything connected to IoT, I don't know, let's say your fridge or your iron, if the centralized server is hacked, that thing can basically kill you, right? So, and if you have different devices connected to blockchain, then it removes this threat. And then I don't remember who you mentioned this scenario of by George Orwell, 1884, right? So if things are kept to be centralized, and if one day they end up in the wrong hands, we might end up in the scenario described in this novel. So my question would be, isn't it worth to do this trade-off for the security and to make sure the scenario doesn't happen?
So this kind of scenario you described could be a valid scenario, but blockchain is not necessarily the only answer to solve that. So if you think about what you just described, on the one hand side, you could add redundancy, so you copy whatever you want to protect in multiple stages. And secondly, there are things like multi-party commutation. So you have basically multi-parties involved. It's still, let's say, there are still parties which have a clear role in it. So you share the security a little bit. So there are other concepts which are for just the purpose you described, more efficient to be used. So blockchain, as I said, if you really have network effects, or you want to track across many parties which do not trust each other, also, then blockchain might be good technology. But for the purpose you just described, I still believe there are other technologies which are worthwhile to consider, and where I, at least at this point in time, believe there might be even the better ones, unless you have the other problem on top when it comes back to maybe blockchain.
All right, more questions? No one? All right, so we talked about like complexity that comes across with the requirements, also the maintenance cycle you have to think about. So before going with IoT into space to set the company up, even approaching corporates, what other requirements you really have to think about?
I worked in the past, or at least we do venture capital and all that stuff, and we have an own, let's say, call it startup platform within Bosch. What is probably known to you, but let's say you are very eager because you have good idea, good technology. What we challenge, and that's the same for blockchain, by the way, what we challenge is a business model and the use case. And of course, you have maybe first the idea, but then really take the time to evaluate, are there pains, gains, or do your value proposition apply a certain business model, canvas, or whatever, you know. So maybe ask for help to get it straight. So I believe initially this effort is worthwhile to shape your idea. And in many cases, and by the way, Bosch in the past still is maybe a very technically focused company. And we had great inventions, but what we did mostly at the end of the technology development cycle to think about the real business model. And I believe that that's worthwhile to really take it up early. There's many support around, so to take the support you can get because there are accelerators, whatever. So many things are around. Take that opportunity to really challenge yourself and your approach, and try to develop one or more business models which you can then explore in the market.
So Thorsten, to get with a device into Pfizer, what would be what it would have to do to really make it? And what I think about how long this
Yeah, the question of how long it would take, this is really difficult to answer. I asked my colleagues and they were not able to listen to me either. As you said, I mean, you have a startup hub as well where you kind of collect these ideas, and this is basically what we do as well. I mean, in Berlin, we here for the marketing reasons or to like communicate to the specialists. But for example, in Freiburg, we have one of the most modern companies for like producing areas within Pfizer and also within the pharmaceutical area. So it's all green, it's going more and more intelligent, and Pfizer is really spending money to get this done. And there's also another hub, and they kind of want to see how the production can get more and more intelligent as well. So there are the other colleagues that go into production IoT or in production startup scene. But I mean, yeah.
How about SAP?
What was the question?
So how about the startup IoT startup approaching SAP altogether?
Yeah. So for us, IoT is not IoT itself. It's important, I believe, for the startup and also for the corporate partner to heavily consider, are we the right fit first before even approaching? Because so SAP is pretty good and has a good footprint within, for example, the whole digital supply chain. Like everything big and heavy needs to be planned and designed first, then it needs to be produced, then it needs to be shipped, and next it needs to be inspection and maintained. So there it makes total sense if you're an IT startup to work with SAP, because SAP gives the backend software to the customer, like BMW, Volkswagen, Boeing, and others. And there it makes sense to connect to these backend systems. And there SAP can help and leverage the startup. Imagine kind of backend system as the startup as a feature. So connecting to this backend system, you can reach all the B2B customers that are using this backend system. This is a tremendous leverage. But let's take healthcare. That's where SAP is not pretty strong. probably not the best idea with that as a healthcare startup to approach SAP first. It makes probably more sense to go to Pfizer.
Now it's really
And also, speaking about pharmaceutical companies, there's another thing that is very important when it comes to healthcare systems. So we, as a pharmaceutical company, are not allowed to speak to customers or patients directly. So mostly our customers are healthcare professionals, and this is something that is very important if you think of a startup that wants to collaborate with a pharmaceutical company. For example, we also have tools that are getting more and more intelligent, like bots, but we can only help patients to understand how they feel, what is their concerns, if they are thinking about a serious illness, for example, cancer. But we would never relate this to any medication that we have. I mean, most of the people, to be honest, don't know what Pfizer is for. We're mostly known for Viagra. So if you know that our company is doing also a lot of research, then, for example, cancer, this is this is a thing. So here we have chatbots where people can ask questions that they probably won't do at first hand to their doctors, but we can go with them together on the way to discover what we can do or what they can do. And this is very important. So basically, we have also a B2B business when it's really related to specific areas within healthcare.
You have a question next?
I would like to come back to this ethical question you already mentioned. People are afraid that they are watched, and people are afraid that they are tracked everywhere. And so far, the internet was built to track people to sell more. And now the idea is that Europe at least should have some ethical approach to build devices that serve people and not track them to manipulate them, as it's done today. Is this an issue you really are concerned about? Do you look in ethical questions before you develop the technology, or is this something someone outside discusses? Sometimes say, well, you don't mind really. What is the process when you think about your development? Do you have someone, a philosopher maybe, or you know, I don't want to say any judges, but someone who is considered with this sort of questions before you really start developing something?
Everyone now.
First of all, I believe your question is something that everybody of us should be able to answer. It's not only about church or only philosopher. And there, I believe you always can use technology in both directions. Let's take this gesture control armband. You can, on the one hand, use it in order to enable impaired people to do something meaningful and produce something if they like to. You don't need to, but you can enable someone to work on a factory shop floor or somewhere else. Or you can take it in order to track how fast somebody is doing something. I believe it's not only about the producer of the technology, but probably even more about the user and the operator of the certain technology for what he wants to use it. So if I buy a certain technology, I should decide for what I'm going to use it.
Yeah, the question was, are you doing that? That was my question. What is the reality in your companies today?
Reality in my company is that we help to create better worlds. That's marketing slogan.
That's not the reality.
so yes and no. For us, it's we as software company a little bit easier than other players. We're not producing cars. The thing is, and here again, yes, part of our investments go into the sustainability area, part of our approaches, and I was basically using for one of our hackathons, internal hackathons where only SAP developers were doing something. We were using this eye tracking technology as well as the gesture control technology in order to build use cases for disabled or impaired people. So there was a whole event only around this topic, and it's at least a topic that we care about and technology.
So maybe taking the example of Bosch. So yes, we have the slogan as well, motto Invented for Life. So basically on the strategic level, we consider very detailed where we get involved. So you will not see us in military or something like that. So there are just areas where we say we are not getting into there. Same for political areas. So we are not, let's say, we're not going in certain countries. So there's a strategic level, and that even the strategic level has definitely ethical aspects. If we start new businesses, we do have the discussion as well. What we have not explicitly done for, let's say, at least, let's say, the whole diesel affair obviously brought things within Bosch up again. So therefore, yeah. So for our customers, you know, yeah. But no. Since then, obviously, a lot has explicitly been addressed. So what has been done is not just that we set certain of these aspects first. So our CEO has said business is not first, but these aspects is first. So there was a huge activity initiated, which is ongoing, to train people, to make people aware of these things, to bring these things up. There's now an organization in place where they can anonymously go into and, let's say, kind of complain about things. So there's since this event, and actually it was even before, but it's what has now even more attention, to be honest. So we had this trainings before, but now there are stronger statements being made based on this incidents. And I believe right now, if you would now talk to people within Bosch, the awareness has dramatically increased about that. So when there's an organization now where they can go and say, hey, this is what we are doing, if we think it's not right, and that will be seriously addressed up to the highest level. So we have now an organization in place. What we do not have very explicitly is if I would like to quote you, that in a certain milestone, have you checked explicitly ethical questions, legal and so on, that we do, of course, but this ethical aspect is not, let's say, at least not everywhere, an explicit question. But we have those organizations now in place, and we have those trainings which are mandatory for all people, which are repeatedly being discussed. So leaders are being asked to discuss with their people these topics. So there's a huge awareness going on, and I think that's good.
I would like to answer that question on a more personal perspective. I think this is really important, and what I did research on and where I published in was in ethical, legal, and social implications research for these ambient assisted living tools. And I did this together with a company for social research for governmental funded research project from the BMBF, Bundesministerium für Bildung und Forschung. And there's a model that was kind of really made up for these research fields, governmental funded. And I wish that these models would go deeper into companies' structures in P&A, because there are, I mean, what I did, I took this model that was kind of, was very straightforward, but I mixed it with design thinking methods, and I figured out that you can go during this whole research process, you can implement this at the very beginning of, and you can just make these experts aware of what implications your project or product has. And I think the most important thing is that you teach the people that are the experts that they have to take care of. I don't think it's very helpful that you only get the external input that someone else says this is good or bad, but you have to be sure what you do is kind of impacting either the good way or the bad way.
So thank you. So for closing that round, I would like to look less at threats, but more at the opportunities we have in tech. That's what we're doing it for. So maybe for everyone, what's the outlook you have in for IoT? What's the most profitable spot? What's the hottest thing you see in the future?
So what I believe, what has not been addressed to an extent due to various reasons is the B2B market. So if you look into startups, many of those are based on, let's say, their own experience, very much focused on the B2C. But if you really look into the market potential, B2B market is way larger in that sense. So therefore, I believe there are a lot of companies around right now which are really looking for support. Getting there, many of those are not yet seeing maybe either the business case or the customer needs, but I think it will develop rather quickly, at least that corporates and others start to address and start to find solutions. So I really believe B2B has still a lot of potential.
I can totally second this. I even have a table on it. To just pull some numbers out of BCG study on the IoT market by 2020. BCG expects the market by 2020 by 250 billion, and only 10% of it are going to go into B2C. It's somehow surprising because it's so much more obvious with Fitbit and the Apple Watch and so on and so forth. But the way bigger part, so out of this 250 billion, only 25 billion. It's still large if you're considering it, do it. But there are much more players, and so it's more crowded, and still the market is not as big as within the B2B field, which is the other 90%. And the biggest chunks within B2B are, according to this study, probably there are others that vary, but according to this study, are discrete manufacturing. This is where Germany is good within the car manufacturing space. Transport, logistics, and utility. So everything around producing energy. All three of them with 60 billion. So if you want to compare it to the whole B2B and B2C market. And if you take these three verticals, actually all the verticals, the biggest chunks in these are actually the whole area around services, so consulting around it, and everything around applications. So the further you go, the deeper you go into the hardware space and so forth, the smaller the market is. So the bigger ones will most probably or do already go for these bigger chunks, but so the bigger chunks like Bosch going more into the software space, and us rather focusing on transport logistics, discrete manufacturing, and utilities. But overall, the whole market is big. That's
As I come from the digital health area, so my perspective, and my two thoughts are about personal health. A day ago, I was at the digital health demo day where we took last year, so we were invited to the Lundi, and I was very excited to see very new connected devices and IoT solutions in personal health. So I'm talking again about B2C, sorry. But I was really, this is like a very good trend, and of course it's written a lot about this, but it's very good to see the demos, the pitches of the startups with very great ideas about personal health and how devices, connected devices, can really help the patients to overcome the rehabilitation period and also the treatment, help in patient treatment and also intervention. So there are different applications for sometimes very specific cases, sometimes quite broad cases, but this is a very good trend of bringing the devices to the homes of patients, and I'm very happy about it.
I can only add a little to that. I personally think that the health tech situation is very wide. I mean, we have technology that is so easy to get involved into your life, and health is the topic number one right now. Everyone is looking forward how you can treat yourself better and how you can keep yourself up. So therefore, I hope that these kind of technologies will interact more easily together, also with home solutions that we have. And I mean, from the other side, I see production sites that are going to be more intelligent and that can kind of get things done better with lower involvement. So that's what.
Yeah, B2B. So, so what we like, we watched this, I don't know like whether you watched this interview like around 50 years ago with Jim Morrison. So they asked like 50 years ago to him like what he thinks about the future of like machines can be actually can interact with music and so on. So his reply was that the machines, like I'm thinking of a future of like machines talking with each other and machines singing and machines connecting to each other. So and that was one of the like reasons why we thought actually like what we can do with buildings and whether we connect the buildings with themselves. And I think that will be the most important part, like as you said, like I think that will prevent also like if we can develop like I think the future will like somehow connecting devices with each other so that they can make much more meaning from the data that they produce actually, so that they like predictive maintenance and everything what has to do, or even like sharing their data each other, because like we as human like we are sharing our experience with other people so that they don't make the mistakes and they do a better work in the future. So I think that will be the part where the machines will do also like share their own data with each other so that to make them better and to develop better. And at the end of the day, I think what will build the future is like taking the human out of these equations, like making like because I think we don't need to spend much time on things that machines can do much more faster and much more better. But also ethical. I think like that will be the future, like more human-less operated things, let's say, and like even maybe governments, like human-less operated governments, like, that will be another way. But I think the future will be like that. But that's even like our vision.
Thank you very much. Please give a big applause. And now I invite everybody to have some snacks and drinks. Connect with the panelists, go into the discussions, B2B, B2C, and to the things that are behind the IoT that's merging into big data AI, as we know. I think we have everybody here today. And yeah, if you are having any IoT idea, please connect with my colleagues. There's Louis, there's Simon, and discuss it with them. So have fun for the next one.
Ich kann nicht so gut vorbei. Kommt nur raus.
Shall we sit down?
Ja, besser sitzen, weil sonst kommt er. Sie ist halt alles so niemals. Machen erst einen Schnitt, haltet euch eine Basis endet es euch. Perfekt.